And so we are wrapping up another month of the theme for the year of building a community. And it's really exciting because we have built a building for our community. And so this month's theme was grace. And so today, my talk title is Amazing Grace. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard that song at least once or twice in your life. It is actually the most popular hymn. It's played more often than any other of the Christian hymns that are out there. It's an amazing song in the feelings that it evokes inside of us. It has an amazing history that goes along with it. It was written in the mid-1700s by a man who was a captain of a ship that was carrying people that had been captured and sold into slavery. And he had an epiphany one day on the ship that made him realize what a wretch, is his word, what a wretch he had been. You know, God saved a wretch like me in there. He took some of the words from it from the Bible. Has brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us on. It comes from the Chronicles. And there's so much emotion whenever I hear that song. I know I had the song played at both my parents' memorial services. It's been played at many of the services that I have done myself. And to me, it evokes a feeling inside of me, because what it does for me is it connects me with Spirit. It connects me with Spirit in a way that I don't connect otherwise. And I think that is the absolute perfect example of grace. Grace is, as I've talked about all month long, that undeserved quality of Spirit that comes to us. We don't have to do anything to earn God's grace. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to be different. Grace is automatically given to us. And grace is not just a human experience that we have when we connect with it. It is actually a transformational experience. When we are in that presence of grace and we allow grace to move through us, then we are transformed by the experience in itself. It is most often felt when we are in moments of forgiveness. Either we are forgiving somebody or somebody's forgiven us. It is felt very significantly when we have compassion for others or for ourselves. It is often felt in acts of kindness that we may not necessarily believe that we deserved that act of kindness. Those random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty. I love that phrase. When we don't think that we necessarily deserved it, but we receive it anyway, we feel the presence, that grace, that presence of the divine coming to us from whomever we're interacting with in there. But most often we find grace when we are in adversity, when we are in challenges in our lives, when something is not going right. That's when we seem to recognize grace moving through us most often. It doesn't have to happen during adversity, but we find that it does, because what adversity does is it gets us to a place where we can't do anything else but give up. When we're in a challenging situation in our life, we are up against the wall, and there is nothing for us to do but to let it go, to give it up. That word surrender, I know a lot of people don't like it because they equate surrender with losing. Because we think about, you surrender in a war, and then we've lost the war. Or you surrender something, you've lost something. But surrendering is not about so much giving up something, but it's about giving ourselves to something. It's about allowing ourselves to be helped and supported by that universal presence that is always there and it's always available to us. When we surrender, when we let go of that and allow it to, it's me saying, I of my own self can do nothing. It is the Spirit within that doeth the works, as the master teacher wrote. It's when I give up control, when I give up trying to fix something, when I give up trying to figure it out, trying to make it work right in my life. That's when I really feel those moments of grace. Rumi, the wonderful poet Rumi, writes it this way. He says, "Give up to grace. The ocean takes care of each wave until it gets to the shore. You need more help than you think." I love Rumi. He can really stick it to you sometimes. You need more help than you think. We spend so much of our human life thinking we have to have the answer, that we have to figure it out, that we have to know the way to do it. And we are so reluctant to give that up, to let that go, and to allow Spirit to move through us. You know, I've talked about him often, but I study Joel Goldsmith. Joel Goldsmith he was a contemporary of our founder, Ernest Holmes, and many of his ideas are very much in alignment with what we believe here. But in his book, The Heart of Mysticism, he has this little prayer. Now, I never get it right, so I'm not even going to try to get it right. I'm going to tell you how I say this prayer. Joel says, when you can't figure something out, when you are at that place where you have tried everything, where I have done, like, for me, I've done every spiritual mind treatment I can think of about every topic I can possibly think of, and I'm still not getting the results that I want, then I do this prayer. It goes something like this for me. God, search my mind, search my body, search my heart, search my soul. If you find anything there that doesn't fit, that doesn't belong, I'm turning it over to you. You take care of it. I don't even need to know what it is. That works. That will get me out of a stuck situation more quickly than just about anything else, because I have surrendered up trying to figure it out, because I've surrendered control over the outcome of it, because I've just said, this is beyond me. I need more help than I think, as Rumi says. I need more help here than I can possibly come up with on my own little mental mind. So I'm turning it over to you, Spirit. And grace floods in every single time. Grace will flood right into whatever that circumstance is for me. Now, I got to admit, it takes me a long time to get to that point to remember to do that prayer, because I'm thinking, I got to figure it out. I got to figure out how to solve this. You know, I'm an intellectual person. I am a scientist. I should be able to figure this out. And I have to sometimes go a long time before I get past that little ego of mine saying, Laura, you should know how to do this. You should figure this out yourself. You know, the thing with surrender is surrender happens in those stages of consciousness. We talk about the stages of consciousness a lot. I first read The Stages of Consciousness by Joel Goldsmith in one of his works, Art of Meditation. He calls them something different than what the terms are that we use nowadays. He hadn't formalized it the way that Reverend Michael Beckwith did for us in his visioning work. So normally we talk about the to me, by me, through me, and as me stages of consciousness. The to me stage of consciousness, I am a victim and things are happening to me. I don't have any control over it, and I just feel like whichever way the wind blows, I'm going with it. I'm in that victim state of consciousness. Something happens, I start doing some spiritual work usually. Mostly it's meditation and affirmations, and I begin to start making things happen. We call this the manifestor consciousness. I start to manifest good in my life because I've shifted things. I've become a little more reflective, listening during meditations. I've learned the power of affirmations, and I can use those to change my thinking about things that are happening in my life, and things start to get better. Then we have the through me consciousness. The through me consciousness is when I am a channel through which Spirit is moving through me. I have surrendered enough of my ego that tried to make things happen in the by me stage to allow Spirit to move through me. And then the final stage that we talk about is the as me, or the being consciousness, where I have those, for me, brief moments of unified consciousness where I don't feel any separation between me and Spirit. Usually for me, they happen in meditation, or if I'm just being very quiet and I can feel that presence and I can feel it actually moving through my skin and moving past my skin, moving through, what word I'm looking for there. So Joel talks about it in a little different way. Joel is very biblical. And a lot of his work, he started off as a Christian scientist. He was born Jewish, started off as a Christian scientist in his early 20s. So he talks about it in reference to the Bible. And so the first stage, that victim stage of consciousness, he calls it barrenness. We got nothing inside of us. There is nothing working through us. We're just isolated on our own, trying to get our own little ego to figure things out. We are in that land of barrenness. And then we start to realize that there's something else out there. That there's something that maybe I could use to change the conditions in my life, something that helps me change how I look at things. Joel equates this to what happened with Moses. And he calls this the Moses consciousness. Because in the Moses consciousness, what happened? Moses came in and he got stuff done. He got the people free. He took them to the land of milk and honey, where they had plenty. They were able to manifest good in their lives. They were making things happen in that era of Moses, that Moses consciousness era. He talks about the third level of consciousness as the messianic consciousness. In other words, the Messiah, when Jesus came in. When we started to look at how we could have this vessel that God is moving through to bring things into our experience. Now, oftentimes in the Bible, it stops with that because often in the Bible it says that there's only this one Messiah. But we know in our philosophy that each one of us can be that place through which God shows up. So each one of us can participate in the messianic consciousness, in the through me stage, being that channel, that vessel through which God shows up. This is the really important part of surrender right here. Because in the manifest or the Moses consciousness, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make it happen. I know what to do things right. I've got my staff and I can make things happen. I can lead the people to freedom. I can have all the food and drink and wine and everything else that I want in my life, all the milk and honey that is provided for us, all of the good things. I think I'm doing something in that stage of consciousness. But when I get to that other stage, that next stage, I realize that it is actually Spirit that is moving through me, allowing these things to happen in my life. Spirit has gotten me to that place where everything is provided for. In the Bible, they say, God knows what you have need of, and it is God's good pleasure to give it to you. Jesus talks about, do I have to think about the clothes that I'm wearing? No. Spirit provides that for me. Do I have to think about the food that I eat? No. Spirit provides that for me. And so as we move from that stage of by me to the to me stage, that is when the act of surrender is happening. That's when we are allowing Spirit to work through us. And that leads us to that final state of consciousness, that being consciousness, that Christ consciousness that they speak of. That is that unified, illumined consciousness. In almost every one of his books, Joel starts it off with a phrase about the illumined walk by grace and not by sight. The illumined walk by grace, because grace is moving through them. Once we get to that place where we understand that Spirit is the very nature of who we are, and that as we surrender all of our wants and needs and desires to the action and the activity of Spirit, then not only do we get our wants, needs, and desires, but we get this connection with Spirit that we couldn't have gotten if we weren't surrendering, if we were still holding on, trying to make it happen ourselves. So often we get stuck in that. Surrender is not just an act of transformation, it is an act of courage. Too often we think that surrender is an act of weakness, but it takes great courage to just say, okay, I don't know what to do here, but I know you do, Spirit. And so I'm going to turn it over to you and allow you to work through me, and let's see what happens. This is our work in life, is to get to that place where we can turn it over, where we can experience that transformative power of surrender that leads to a grace that we could have never imagined, that leads to that actual experience of amazing grace in our lives. So let's take this into prayer. I invite our practitioners to stand and surround us. I hope you all make it to the service next Sunday at our sanctuary, our brand new sanctuary, because the practitioners are going to do chamber prayer. They don't necessarily know this right now, but I just told them. So if you haven't experienced a chamber prayer before, it is a powerful, transformative experience. All right. And so we just turn within. If you'd like to, just take in a nice deep breath, close your eyes, and let your shoulders drop and your body relax as we move into that place and space of conscious connection with the indwelling presence, that one divine love intelligence that resides right at the heart of our being, that is the isness, the allness, and the fullness of all life. I know that in the beginning was this one all-pervasive power. Nothing else existed. And through its own energy, through its own matter, through its own consciousness, Spirit created. And it brought forth everything into existence. Every star in the sky, every planet, every grain of sand, every atom and molecule and being that has ever been is a perfect and unique emanation of that one power and presence, that one unconditional love that was so powerful it had to express itself as creation, to share this love, to bring it forth into expression, to watch it unfold throughout all of life. Because I know there is only one, I know that I am one with it. I know that that love intelligence resides right at the very heart of my being. That I am the perfect creation of that love. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. For all of creation has been brought into existence by this one amazing consciousness. That this one shares itself throughout all of creation. And that each one of us is that perfect emanation of love in action. And because I know this is true for us, I speak my word of truth right here and right now. I know that each one of us is the unfoldment of grace. That each one of us is that amazing and perfect representation of a creative intelligence that experiences life through and as its own creation. I know that as we surrender our need to make things happen, that this grace has an opening within us to pour itself forth into expression in all of our affairs, in our health, in our finances, in our relationships. Everything is an outpicturing of grace in action. Oh, and how blessed we are. How blessed we are to feel this, to see it, to know it is happening right here and right now. And I just give great thanks for this knowing. Thanks for this visible and tangible representation of the grace of the divine happening here on earth. I let this go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.